simple, mild-mannered guy. What does it matter if they know I can fly up to the top of the sky and look down on the city? I can see all the people, I can see them sitting pretty, but I don't want to have to do that every day. I want to live my life, I want to be okay.
Hey guys, what's up? Russ here. So today marks my 8-year anniversary here on YouTube of making videos. So I thought I would do a room tour and just kind of talk about my time here on YouTube, why I started, and how I got into collecting in the first place. So let's get started. Alright, so let's start with what got me into superheroes and comics. And it actually started when I was 6 years old. I saw the Christopher Reeve Superman movie for the first time. Now, I didn't get to see it in theaters because it came out before I was born. But in 1986, when I was 6, I saw it on video and just kind of fell in love with that character in that movie. But I didn't actually start collecting comics until 6 years later when I was 12 years old. I was walking to school one morning and I happened in this gas station, Jerry's Market, and I picked up my very first comic book, which happened to be Action Comics 688, the beginning of the Reign of Superman storyline. At that time, I didn't know Superman had died, so I just thought he had like a new costume. I read the story and found out about the whole Death of Superman storyline, and just I had to go back and just get them all and read the whole story, and that just it hooked me on comics, and that was kind of like a little bit of an escape for me in my childhood, and I fell in love with the stories. So every week I would stop in that gas station and spend my lunch money on the new issue of Superman, and these are the exact comics I got back then when I was 12 years old, just about to turn 13. And that just, I've been a lifelong fan of Superman ever since, and pretty much all I collected for the first couple years was Superman comics, and then I got into Batman because of the animated series. And same with Spider-Man and X-Men. I branched over to Marvel because of their animated series and started collecting those comics. And it just kind of snowballed from there. I just never really stopped collecting. Well, until the year 2000 when I was 20. I had to sell a bunch of my collection. And that just, it kind of hurt me a little bit. So I stopped collecting for around about 15 years. I didn't start collecting again until 2015, and just so happened I was like going through the only box of comics I had left, which was my long box of Superman comics, and that just kind of brought back all these memories of collecting and those issues, and I just kind of fell in love with collecting again. So the first thing I did was started to hit the dollar boxes and kind of put back the collection that I once had. And I've pretty much done that with the exception of a few books that just became way too pricey. But the majority of what I once had, I was able to put back together. Now, why I started YouTube, I was pretty isolated as a kid and didn't really have any friends growing up. I just kept to myself and sort of put up walls. And one day I just decided to jump on YouTube and show off some of this nerdy stuff that I like collecting. And I never really dreamed that it would blow up the way it did. And I met so many people, like-minded collectors, and just made genuine connections and friendships with people, and saw like how many people just loved the same things that I loved. And YouTube just kind of opened up a new world for me to just meet these people and like make these friendships. And I never really had that growing up. And YouTube just it helped me take down these walls that I had up. I did start my channel collecting Funko Pops, and gosh, maybe a year and a half, close to 2 years into collecting Pops, I was getting like pretty burnt out on collecting them. And I was already collecting comics again at that time, but I just didn't really think to show the comics on YouTube. And I was really thinking about giving up and quitting. And I was just doing like a random gameplay stream on there. And my friend Matt, the boy who had 7, popped in. And he's a big comic book channel. And I hadn't thought of, showing my comics on YouTube. But he introduced me to the comic book community, and I met so many amazing people through him. And I saw so many other people showing comics. And I was like I said, I was already collecting again and falling back in love with comics. And I decided to start showing my collection on there and just stuck with YouTube. I do have some Funko Pops left, but gosh, I had tons that I ended up just giving to my nephew who started collecting. And that just made room for everything else here. I know you guys see a lot of figures. I have been getting into figure collecting a lot more recently. More so than comics lately. But I do still love comics and still collect. Just not as often as I used to. I do buy a lot more figures though. I have, like I said, been getting into figures like more and more. Occasionally I will pick up some comics from time to time, but there's not too many left that I'm really looking for. I don't really collect anything new. I'm mostly 90s all the way back to the Silver Age, and when I can find one fairly cheap, I do like to dabble in some Golden Age, but that's not too often at all. So the list of comics is pretty short now. And the list of figures is getting like more and more. So you guys will probably see more figures on the channel than comics going forward. But occasionally there will be some comic book hauls. One of the big things that I started like collecting recently and kind of going down the rabbit hole in is wrestling memorabilia and figures. I've been a wrestling fan since I was like 11 years old. But for whatever reason, I never really got into the figures or memorabilia until recently. There you guys see the winged eagle. Probably like the prize piece in my whole collection. Got it on WWE Shop maybe 2 years ago. There was like a price error on the site during Black Friday. And gosh, I think these things are up to over 400 now. But I scored mine for 195. But yeah, wrestling figures especially have been huge for me lately. I have a real hard time finding Marvel Legends and McFarlane in my area. So I haven't been getting as many of them as I would like. But wrestling figures have just been in abundance here. And I went down that rabbit hole hard with collecting, as you guys are about to see. And there is more on the way. I actually have an Undertaker pre-ordered, but he's not going to be here till October, I think. And I have a figure on the way from Ringside Collectibles. Not sure how many of you guys are wrestling fans, but I love it. Here's another thing I got into for a short time when I wasn't collecting comics, swords, because of the Highlander series. Unfortunately, I've sold all my swords since then, except for Excalibur here. I also love the whole mythos of King Arthur and Sword in the Stone, Excalibur, and all that, so I kept this one. My mom and grandma actually went in together and bought this for me when we were on vacation at Myrtle Beach one year when I was, oh gosh, 14, 15 years old maybe. In my closet here is where I've got some more comic boxes stored. And these are just like action figure accessories and stuff that I try to keep somewhat separated. A couple card boxes. I did get into cards for a little while. Not so much sports as I did superhero cards, but I do have some sports cards as well. Here's the last few Funko Pops that I still have in my collection that I will most likely keep, because these are some of my favorite characters. I'm also a pretty big gamer. That's another kind of, I guess, escape that I use. Got the PS5 over here and the Xbox Series S. I did want to switch up to the Series X because I don't really like digital. I prefer physical. But they went up $100 on their console, so I will stick with the Series S here. There's a little mini Batman hanging out in my Superman mug. And that is my coffee mug, which needs to be refilled. It's currently empty. There's a little mini Freddy Krueger, man. Alright, that's it for the tour, but before I end this video, I do gotta say this. As somebody with like high anxiety and had so many walls up and just didn't let people in, I would still be that just closed off shell of a person if I hadn't started YouTube and met all these people and made so many connections and friendships. You guys here have helped me so much over these last 8 years. Just open up and just let people in. And just, I love you guys. I love doing this. So here is to many more years on YouTube, making videos, memories, and friendships. Until the next time, I'll see you guys later. Keep it 9,000.
What did you say his power level is? It's over 9,000!